Hello and welcome to Chapter 6, Morphous Points. This is a little bit longer of a chapter, not huge, but definitely longer. So have a nice drink, settle in. If you remember last time, Jason had made it to his suite and had met CL, and they'd had an absolutely wonderful time together. He'd healed CL, sent a very happy CL on his way through the fireplace, and Sandy was still not back at the room yet, and he decided it was time to use the restroom. But there was no toilet paper, and that's how we ended the chapter. So we're beginning it with a quest for toilet paper. So Chapter 6, Morphous Points. I figured that it hadn't been put out already, but when I went to check in the vanity, there was no toilet paper to be found. No big deal. I'd just borrow some from Sandy's bedroom. Except hers didn't have toilet paper either, and I realized there wasn't even a holder for it. This seemed very strange. CL seemed to be good at his job. Wasn't making sure a reasonable amount of tissue products were available supposed to be part of refreshing any bathroom? I thought about using toilet or paper towels, but the bathroom only had hand towels and washcloths. I would have called for assistance, but there wasn't a phone in the room. I'm guessing no electricity meant no phones, too. I'm sure they weren't needed since most mages could message with their bank stamp. Meanwhile, nature was continuing to call. It wasn't urgent yet, but she was certainly putting me on notice. This was a matter that could not afford to wait. Before I started doing anything too crazy, I decided to look in the hallway and see if there was a helper that could message housekeeping for me. Fortunately for me, that ended up being the case. There was a cute little pixie of a girl, sporting a gold and purple helper badge, hurrying down the hallway. Pardon me, I said, but she seemed lost in thought and didn't hear. Hello, I said louder, waving my hands. That did the trick. She smiled and hurried over, but there was an underlying edge of irritation and frustration. Is everything okay? I asked. Now she was close. I could see she was older than I thought. She was definitely a woman, but still very pixie-like. She had wide eyes, and a cute little nose. Overall, she was small but pretty, and looked like a person who usually smiled. It's just first night frazzle, she said. Everyone is arriving, and houses in my section seem to be having problems of some sort or another. It will be okay, but right now it's frustrating. I'm sure the first night was rough for all the assistants. It sounded like she needed to vent, so I nodded my head in sympathy. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that, I said sincerely. It's okay, she said, waving it off. It's just that I have tree folk without a steady supply of their mineral water, which is a real problem, mixed in with a bunch of nitpicky issues. One house has too much light, one doesn't have enough. One house is upset they don't have any greeting snacks, compared to another house who needs a whole new room added to their suite. I only have a limited number of Morphous Points to work with, and I can't ask for more unless there is a major issue. I can convert more myself, but I only have so much magic to work with, and I still need some for the rest of the gathering. What are Morphous Points? I asked. You know, points you can spend to change the house. She gave me an odd look. Don't they call them Morphous Points in your house? It's when you give magic to the house, then request something in the house to morph into something else. Or maybe you just ask for something that wasn't there before. The point system is an easy way to see how many credits you have and how much you can change. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about, I said. I've never heard of a point system, though. We've just given magic to the house and hoped for the best. Oh dear, she shook her head. That's the worst thing you can do. The house tries to be helpful, it really does, but it usually picks the most expensive and magic-intensive way of giving you what you asked for. That is a totally rookie thing to do. You'll ask for a new color on the walls, and the house will end up giving you living paint that changes color as you touch it. It will be very pretty and totally awesome, but it'll cost 100 times more than a regular paint job. Oh, that was good to know, and certainly fit what had happened so far. I'd asked for a nice stand for Eggy, and gotten a magical seafoam stand made of glass that slowly moved over time. It was totally awesome, but I'm sure it cost a lot more magic than just a regular non-moving stand. So what is the right way to do it, I asked. I still had a living room and a kitchen to remodel after all. My granny godmothers were cleaning at the park and putting some of that recovered magic to the house, but there hadn't been any changes yet. If I found out how to do it cheaper and faster, that would be a real bonus for this trip. The best way is to tell the house exactly what you want, the pixie girl replied. Don't leave anything to chance. Say what it should look like, any materials it should be made out of, or if it should copy or match something else. The more information you give the house, the closer the end result will be to what you needed. That made sense, and it must have been how Annabeth had gotten her place remodeled so well. She'd had pictures of what she thought looked good, and the house had made it work from there. I just needed to do the same thing with the rest of my place. I'm sure Annabeth would be happy to help. She liked architectural digests and all those fancy house porn magazines. Thanks for the suggestion, I said. I'm still so new to everything, and any information is helpful at this point. So how many points do you have? Well, I have almost 100,000 Morphous Points, which should have been plenty, but making a whole new room is going to take up most of them. The rest will go into fixing the water problem with the tree folk. If I have any points left over, I'll use them to fix the suite with the low lighting. The suite with too much light should be easy. I can cover up a few of the lights and they should be good to go. She continued to look thoughtful for a moment, obviously still planning out her fix-it strategy. Then she focused on me again. Forgive me, I didn't mean to burden you with my problems. I'm guessing you flagged me down with a problem of your own. She straightened up and clasped her hands in front of her. She was ready and willing to listen to what I needed. Unspoken was the hope that I didn't need anything that required Morphous Points. My problem is simple and shouldn't require any magic, I said. I just need some toilet paper. I've checked everywhere and there's none to be found. Toilet paper? She looked confused. You know, white comes in a roll? She still looked blank. You use it to clean up yourself after number 2. I made a vague butt-wiping motion to get the point across. I was trying to be polite and not too graphic, but come on. How can someone be confused by toilet paper? It's like the kids' book says. Everybody poops. Oh, toilet paper, she nodded. Now I know what you're talking about. It's a fairly modern invention by the mundanes, and it's quite wasteful from what I understand. I haven't been earthside in a long time, so I haven't used it myself. Modern? Toilet paper was modern? How old was this woman? Really? I gave her a look of total disbelief. I couldn't help but sniff the air. She seemed okay and there weren't any flies hanging around. So what do you use instead? I was almost afraid to ask. I use my Freshness, of course. She said like that explained everything. Seeing my look of confusion, she continued, Hasn't anyone talked to you about using Freshness charms? I shook my head and she sighed. Freshness charms take care of all your basic body functions. They've been around for thousands of years, so I'm not sure how you missed out on using them. They have become especially popular recently with their responsible disposable upgrades, as well as the many spa options. She perked up and seemed quite happy to tell me all about it. Older charms only took care of your hygiene, and while that is important, it's not everything. The newer charms take your natural byproduct, clean it, and send it where it is needed. For example, I donate all my liquids to a village near a desert that struggles to get clean water. The charm takes care of everything for me. It purifies the water and relocates it to a storage container for their use. Was she pulling my leg? She seemed serious. I knew people were into recycling, but this seemed a bit overboard. What about number 2, I asked. Same sort of thing, she said matter-of-factly. It goes into their compost piles to provide life to a whole new generation of plants. Best of all, it strips out my natural magic and gives it back to me. The charm retains some of that so it stays powered, but I keep the rest of it. You're pulling magic out of your poop? This was the strangest conversation I'd ever had. Of course, she said. Your body fluids are inside your aura and saturated with your magic, just like the rest of your body. When you poop, that is magic leaving your body. It's just like if you got cut and started bleeding. This doesn't matter a lot in the beginning when a mage's magic density is very low. Once you start getting powerful, though, it becomes necessary to monitor any expenditure of magic and retain as much as possible. I'd never thought about that. Holy crap, we were talking about magic crap. My new world was a very strange place. After all, she continued, it doesn't make sense to cultivate ambient mana, gain mana from swears, and absorb mana from pearls, only to pee it all out of your system. That's just wasteful. Then she got a sly grin which made her look even more pixie-like. If that's all the charm did, it would be wonderful, but it has spa options. She said spa options like the charm was a ticket to heaven. I'm almost afraid to ask, I said playfully, but what are the spa options? Just what it sounds like, silly, she poked me playfully. It's like having a spa in your pocket. You want a hot bath? No problem. A seaweed wrap? No problem. It creates a microfilm of warm water all over you, then wraps you in seaweed fibers for as long as you want. It has a cycle as short as 1 minute for an ultra-fast refresh, or you can go for a whole hour. If you want a nice massage, it does that for you too. Sometimes I just sit and have it rub my feet for me while I'm sipping a glass of wine. She sighed and looked away with the dreamiest expression. Believe me, once you use your first good freshness charm, you never go back. Then she got a bit of a naughty look and her eyes sparkled. It's even got another option for those days when a girl needs some relaxation, but she doesn't want all the drama that comes from someone else. Oh, do tell. No wonder she liked her freshness moments. You mean it provides a little stairway to heaven, I quipped. I'm talking about me, myself, and oh my, she quipped back. A little tickle on the pickle, I chuckled. I think that's more your option than mine, she grinned and poked me again. Although I hear there are freshness charms that are especially for men. I don't have any of those, of course, but I'm sure someone has a spare freshness charm I can give you. I'll message around, see what I can find, and have someone drop it off. There's just one problem, I said quickly before she could hurry away. She'd had that look in her eye that said I was a problem solved, time to move on. And that is, I can't use charms, I said sadly. What do you mean, everyone uses charms? She gave me a disbelieving look. Even naturals use freshness charms. Only the newest of sparks have a problem, and even then it works itself out in a few weeks. If you have magic, and you must since you are here, then you can use charms. I guess I'm one of those rare sparks, I told her, but I can't use charms. They just don't work for me. I've tried over and over. Believe me, I've tried. I cannot get charms to work. You're a spark, she said. I could tell she thought I was lying, although she was confused as to why I was saying this. Yes, I said firmly. Iota met us when we first came through the gate to this realm and sent out a message to everyone letting them know about our house. This is our first time, and our group is a bit different from the norm. I've been too busy to check messages, she said. Hang on. She tapped the bank stamp on her wrist, then swiped and flicked in the air for a few minutes. She must have had a lot of messages. Then she focused back on me again. Your house, Louisville? She sounded resigned, like she was wondering what else could go wrong tonight. I nodded and she went back to reading her messages. Her message. How old are you? She asked. I'm not sure exactly, I said. I tried to add it up in my head, but I wasn't a good judge of time. At least 2 months, maybe 3? You're a baby, she breathed. Then she gave me an odd look. You're very cute. She lightly stroked the side of my face. But you're so young. Oh my. Thanks, I said to the cute part. I wasn't sure about the baby part. And you don't have a bank stamp? Nope, I replied. Well, no wonder you came out in the hallway to flag me down. It makes perfect sense now. She sighed like the world was on her shoulders. Was I not supposed to flag her down? Was I being rude? I didn't want to be rude. I'm sorry if I did something wrong, I said. I wasn't sure what else to do, and I didn't mean to keep you out here in the hallway. Would you like to come inside? Oh, sweetie, she cooed. That is so very nice of you to ask, but you are way too young for me to trade up. Oh, no, that's not what I meant, I stammered. I do appreciate your courage, and you are so very sweet. She ran her hand lightly over my chest and abs. You are certainly nice enough, don't get me wrong. But the difference between us is just too great. My power might overwhelm you, and that would not be good at all. Oh, my goodness. What was with everyone thinking I wanted to have sex with them? Tyler was so right. Trading up was an obsession with these people. I decided just to let it go like I had with Eugene. If she thought I was sweet and I wanted to trade some sweaty magic with her and felt flattered by that, then that was fine with me. Hopefully it would provide a little bit more motivation for her to help me when I needed it. Well, that is quite all right, I said. However, I still have the original problem. I need to get some toilet paper. I'm afraid you aren't going to find any here, she said sadly. It just isn't something we stock. Even the younger mages on the cradle floor, the ones that have waker moment issues, are taught to use basic freshness charms. She looked resigned and slightly amused in a Murphy's Law got me again kind of way. I think the only way you're going to be able to get toilet paper is to ask the house. And that will require Morphous Points, I said wryly. Pixie Girl was cursed. She had all the problems she needed to solve, and they all required points. She nodded. I don't suppose you have any Morphous Points? She asked. I know it's a long shot, a very long shot, but maybe somebody in your house gifted you a few points before you left. That would be such a nice, thoughtful thing to do. After all, anything's possible, right? She didn't look very hopeful, but at least she was thinking of all the possibilities. I'm sorry to ask, it's just that I've thought about what else I need to do tonight and I'm already overloaded. I need every possible point I can get. Sure, I replied, I understand. I appreciate your time and assistance, and I'm sure it's not easy keeping everybody happy. So how do I check for points? It's really simple, she said. You just ask the house. It will show you the number of points you have. Oh. That sounded a lot like checking my levels at Tyler's special gym on the beach. If it was like that, then this was going to be easy. House, I said clearly, show me my Morphous Points. A scroll popped up in the air in front of me, just like when I was checking my punching stats. Jason Cole, Morphous Points, 179,867. I read the number. Then I read it again. I guess I was taking too long because Pixie Girl poked me. How many points do you have? A little over 179,000 points. I was stunned. What? No way. That's more than I have for this whole section. There's no way you can have that many points. She was stunned too and gave me a look like I was pulling her leg. That is what it says, I replied. I'm as shocked as you are. House, she said, please share this information with me for the next 5 minutes with this young man's approval. She gave me a playful but challenging look. I agree, I said. I didn't mind sharing this information because I wasn't lying. Plus, I was curious about sharing information and wanted to see how it would happen. The scroll in front of me grew more solid looking and it started glowing with a red border. Pixie Girl looked at it and I could see her mouth moving as she read off the numbers. Then she read it off again. That is just crazy. How on earth do you have that many points? No offense, but you're a spark, so it should take a week of motivated gathering to get enough magic to generate even 1 point. I have 100,000 points, and that's only because the group of mages all chipped in over a period of months. That's why I'm doing my best to work with the points I have. Getting more points takes time and magic. You can't just have that many points and not know it. I really hadn't known it at all. No wonder she was flabbergasted. My granny godmothers had been busy. I also realized I couldn't talk about my little creations and I didn't want to get into my battles and all the cleanup we were doing. It might be something John did, I said. He's our house handyman. He's a natural and part mountain troll, so he's very in touch with the earth and stone and all that. He seems to have a great relationship with the house, and it makes whatever changes he wants. That was all true in the strictest sense, even if it painted a false picture. John was the house handyman, and he had made huge changes to Sandy's bedroom when her and Annabeth were comatose. The house certainly liked him, and he seemed to have plenty of magic to spare. I think I would like to meet this John and see if he would help me with a few things, she said, still giving me a funny look. I'm sure you will someday, I replied. He's with Sandy, our head of house, so he will probably be coming to future gatherings with her. Why didn't he come this time? She asked. He's guarding the house with Annabeth. She has to handle the shields, and he can fend off the mages next time they attack. We know the next assault is coming soon, we just don't know when. Pixie Girl's eyes got a bit bigger as I was talking. I'm guessing House Atac wasn't attacked very often, if at all, since it was in its own realm. Your house, Louisville, she exclaimed, and I nodded. Oh, now it all makes sense. I've just heard about your house and some of the things you've been going through. I'm so sorry you've been in the middle of all that. I can't imagine having a waker moment and then going right into a war. That must be terrible. I just nodded. Part of it had been terrible. Part of it had been wonderful, too. I'd met Tyler when a remnant tried to kill me, and I'd been rescued by Bermuda after fighting a golem in the park. I couldn't imagine my life right now without those two. Because of our war, I'd learned how to heal and how to fight. Sandy and John had gotten married, I'd been part of that special night. What stood out to me now were all the wonderful moments and how it had brought our band of friends together. The house can award Morphous Points for doing something special. Maybe you got all those points from defending your house. She was back on the points again. I needed to close this conversation, as I'd said too much. I was still used to being around close friends. 1 second. Maybe. I don't know, since I just now learned what they are and how to see how many I have. Time to segue. I know you are really tight on points, and I seem to have a lot, so maybe I could give you some to help out. Really? She seemed incredulous and hopeful. How many do you want? I asked. You better not ask that, she laughed. I want them all. Seriously. Seriously, though, let me figure out how many I need. She did some math in her head for a minute. I could really use another 800, she said finally. Then she squirmed a little bit, like she was almost afraid to ask for that much. How do I transfer points? I asked. You just tell the house to do the transfer and it happens right away. She was very hopeful now. House, I said, transfer 1,000 Morphous Points from my account to this lovely lady's account. I realized I didn't even know her name yet. I'm Elizabeth, she said. Elizabeth Walter. I'm Jason Cole, I replied. It's nice to meet you. I think I can safely say the pleasure is all mine. She took my hand in both of hers and kissed it. I'm terribly grateful for all your help, and I'm supposed to be the one helping you. You're welcome. I gave you a few extra points just in case you run into someone else in the hallway that needs your help. That was very thoughtful. Few people would be as generous with points as you have been, and while I'm very glad to be the recipient of generosity, you probably shouldn't be handing out points like that. She seemed both grateful and serious at the same time. I know you have a lot of points now, but you are a spark, so they aren't something you can generate quickly. They are valuable, so treat them that way. She was right. My granny godmothers were cleaning up the park and bringing all that formerly contaminated magic back to the house. Once they were done and the park was clean, my easy point source of house points was going to dry up. I hear you, and I'll be careful, I replied. Then I felt a rumbling down below. And now, back to the topic of toilet paper. It seems like I have the points I need to ask the house for it, but what is the process exactly? Start by telling the house what you need. Be as exact as possible. Also let the house know how urgent it is that this happens right away. The house doesn't do its magic while someone is looking, so you need to leave the room and come back. If all goes well, you'll have your tissues. Well, I hate to just run away, she continued, but I have to get going. I have a lot of work to get done tonight. She gave me a flirty smile and touched my arm. You've been so sweet and helpful that I think I might just stop by tonight after I'm finished. Maybe trading up is in order after all. She gave me a saucy wink. Oh, thank you, but I wasn't giving you points for that, I stammered. I know, she said, and that's what makes you a sweet young man. She leaned in even closer. And don't worry, I'll be gentle. I leaned away. I appreciate the thought, but I'm gay. I thought that would end it, but she just looked confused. I like guys, I further clarified. I guess gay is a fairly recent term, and she said she hadn't been to our realm in a while. Plus, I'm seeing someone. I backed away a little further. She was coming on a little strong. Oh, she said, I keep forgetting you're a spark. Once you get past a couple hundred years, it all starts to blend a bit more. You end up liking a broader range of people and sampling the love of those you'd never considered before. You still have your main preferences, of course, but sometimes a change is nice too. She sighed and stepped back. I will stop by and check on you, though. Without a bank stamp, you can't message for assistance, so there might be other things you need help with. Thanks, I said. I'd appreciate that. Goodbye, then. She leaned in and kissed me on the cheek. Goodbye, I said, as she turned and dashed off down the hallway. Well, that had certainly been educational. Now it was time to put that knowledge to work. I put my hand on the door to open it and went inside. I went to my bathroom and thought for a moment about what to say. House, I need 4 rolls of toilet paper. Just regular toilet paper will do. It needs to be white, quilted, and double ply. It should be soft enough for my tushy, but strong enough to take care of business. Also, timing is of the essence here. This is an urgent request. I stood there for a moment. Was I missing anything? Just put the toilet rolls on the counter. There's no need to include a holder, and thank you for your help. It is much appreciated. I thought about it for a moment, but I couldn't think of anything I'd missed. I decided to leave the bathroom and see if the house would do its thing. I went back to the bedroom and snuggled with Bermuda a bit more. He was still sleepy, and his fur felt extra soft and warm. Finally, after a few minutes, I kissed his head and went back to the bathroom. There, on the vanity, were 4 beautiful rolls of toilet paper. It had worked. This was opening up a whole new world of possibilities. What else could I summon when I got home? A new TV? A new couch? Now I had everything I needed. A drop trowel on the porcelain throne and made like a king. There wasn't any electricity here, so I hadn't brought my phone, and I had nothing to read. My mind wandered, and I got to wondering how many points 4 rolls of toilet paper had cost me. House, show me my Morphous Points. The scroll popped up in front of me again. Jason Cole. Morphous Points, 179,842. I'd forgotten exactly how many points I'd had the last time I asked, so that didn't help me. Maybe I need to go about this a different way. House, please show me how many Morphous Points it costs to get these rolls. Also, I'm new to all this, so any extra information you could provide about the cost would be helpful. I didn't know if this would work, but it was worth a shot. To my delight, the scroll rolled closed, then opened with new information. Toilet paper. Specifications. Regular, white, quilted, 2-ply, tushy soft, wiper strong, rush job. Option 1, product creation. Morphous cost $125. Option 2, product fetch. Nearest product on Earth. Morphous Points cost $25. Option 2 selected. Well, that was certainly interesting. I thought the house just went poof and it showed up. I hadn't given any thought to how it actually happened. So the house could make toilet paper out of thin air, but it cost a lot of magic to do it. Or it could swipe it off the shelf at Walmart and bring it here for a lot less. Does this mean that somewhere there was a 12-pack of toilet paper that was now missing 4 rolls? Also, how much more had it cost because I was in a realm? House, another question to help me understand. If I was at home in my regular bathroom and I'd asked you to fetch the same 4 rolls, how many Morphous Points would that have cost? Once again, the scroll rolled closed, then opened with new information. The cost to fetch 4 rolls of toilet paper, the good stuff, 2-ply and all, would be 0. You could just ask your hunk of a man candy to go and get you some butt wipes, or you could call Annabeth or John. Seriously, dude, don't use Morphous Points for bowel towels. Find another way. Once I'd finished reading, the scroll snapped shut and faded away. The house was feeling a bit feisty tonight. Plus, it had called me dude. I had to laugh. I'm sure the house was busy keeping track of the gathering and opening the gates to bring everyone clear here. It clearly had better things to do than answer all my questions. Thank you, house, I said to the air. Sorry to bother you. I didn't get any response, but it seemed like the right thing to say. One thing the Pixie Girl had said came back to me. She'd said that it would take someone at my level about a week to generate a Morphous Point. That meant for a normal mage at my level, 4 rolls of toilet paper was worth 25 weeks of magic gathering. That was a terrible exchange ratio. I made a mental note to give my grannies special thanks for all their hard work when I got back. I had just finished my business and washed my hands when I heard the front door open. Sandy was back. I hurried through the bedroom and back to the greeting room to meet her. "Hey!" I gave her a big hug. "How was the ultra-privileged head of household lounge?" "Surprisingly, it went well," she said. "I'm not a big fan of mingling and small talk, but a couple of the other heads introduced me to their group, and I ended up having a great time." I hoped it wouldn't be too bad," I said. "After all, they have all been new at some point in their lives. I figured they would either be friendly or at worst just ignore you and hang out with their own friends." "Most of them were very nice," Sandy said. "They were warm and sweet and supportive, and everything I think someone blah, 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 blah. Most of them were very nice," Sandy said. "They were warm and sweet and supportive, and everything I think someone that runs a house should be like. There was one group, though, that was very aloof. I don't know why, but they seemed to have it out for me in particular. I had one guy in that group give me looks that were downright cold. I have no idea what all that was about, but I'm just going to ignore him." But enough about me. What about your time? How was your time? Did you get to our rooms all right? "I did," I said, "although it's been pretty exciting overall." I told her about Eugene and how he was in the tournament and how interesting his training had been. Bermuda patted in while we were talking, so Sandy picked him up and gave him some love. She was glad he was here too, as this made our suite seem a little more like home. I told her about CL healing him and how he'd staggered home through the fireplace. Sandy started unpacking while we talked. It didn't take her long at all. She'd packed just as light as I had. Then we talked about Pixie Girl and toilet paper. It turns out one of Sandy's many charms was a Freshness charm, so she was good to go. It was the older kind, though, without spa options. I thought we'd call it a night at this point, but the evening wasn't over yet. We still had a welcome party to go to. Sandy said she'd heard it was not to be missed. I gave her time to freshen up, and I took the time to change. I kept the jeans on, but went with a nicer shirt. I wasn't sure if I should be wearing something upscale, nightclub, just casual. What I had on wouldn't turn any heads, but hopefully I would just blend in. I also remembered that Bermuda needed some extra bathroom facilities too. So I spent some more points to get him a litter box, food and water bowls, and a bag of food. Surprisingly, that only cost me 6 points. I guess Bermuda got a special discount. Since I'd spent so little, I ordered a few bags of treats. Party Mix original flavor. They were his favorites. We met back in the greeting room and headed out. Sandy decided to keep it simple too, with jeans and a purple shirt. She was wearing all her charms though, and they jingled when she walked. We were in a place of magic, so it's probably better to have the charms than leave them back in her room. Bermuda was tired of napping and he wasn't going to be left behind, so I ended up carrying him. I complained that he was going to get hair on my shirt, but secretly I was very happy he was with me. Plus, he'd probably be a great conversation starter. After all, who can resist a cute kitten? Sandy used her map to guide us back through the maze of hallways, and it wasn't long before we arrived. The welcome party was on our floor and in one of the huge rooms near the manful staircase. I thought the room would be set up like a party, dim light, dance music, bar in the corner. Instead, it was surprisingly well lit, with groups of musicians playing jazz or soul. The music was loud enough to put a bit of pep in your step and provide ambiance, but it was still easy to hear people and hold a conversation. What made it fascinating were the drinks. They didn't have a simple bar station where you waited in line and left with a plastic cup filled with alcohol. Oh no. These were full-on themed areas of cocktail magnificence. The gods of Mount Olympus would have felt right at home strolling through this get-together. My favorite was the citrus rum waterfall. The waterfall was about 2 stories high and made of all kinds of carved citrus. The rum cascaded over the top and ran down the wall of fruit to the pool at the bottom. Little pixies filled up pails of rum from the pool and flew them back up to the top. The rum then flowed down over the waterfall again, picking up even more flavor. Our bartenders were pirates and wenches, and they served the drinks in old scuffed flagons. It was perfect. In addition to all the citrus, the rum had some spices in it too, like Captain Morgan, and it went down so easy. There were sweet drinks with umbrellas served from a surf shack with bartenders and G-strings. We had ice-cold beer in huge wooden flagons from a dwarven-inspired mountain home. Ice pixies and sugar plum fairies served from a lake of clear vodka and spiked our beverages with what looked like gems and gold. The place was huge, and whatever type of spirit you wanted, it was available and served in a creative, themed way. We had wine made from all kinds of fruits, whiskeys, vodkas, gin, rum, beer, ale, and so many more. I'm not a big alcohol person, as spirits and poker don't mix. Probably the best drink I'd had up to this point was at John's place, where I'd end up passed out on the floor. In addition to all the libations, there were servers walking around with equally creative hors d'oeuvres. I ate a cherry bomb, an actual bomb. The server lit the stem of the cherry, and I popped it in my mouth as it was sparkling down. Then it exploded, and I had a cherry experience like no other. Fortunately, I love cherries, so that was a good thing. I ate a jellyfish that swam through the air and sat in my hand. It wasn't that big, and it tasted like gummy worms. One of the most surprising things I encountered was eggs and toast. It looked like an egg over easy on a piece of toast. When I bit into it, though, I tasted toasted chocolate and ice cream. The center of the egg was an orange sherbet sort of thing, and the whites of the egg were a smooth vanilla. The toast was the toasted chocolate. It was crunchy, cool, and flavorful, and I loved it. I could see why Sandy had wanted to come. It was a welcoming party like nothing I'd ever experienced before. In addition to food and drinks, we also met a whole lot of wonderful people. Sandy had already broken the ice with lots of the house heads, and that continued at the party. We were introduced to a lot of people, like a lot. Way more than I could ever remember, although I tried at the start of the evening. Once the alcohol started hitting, though, the only thing I could remember was my funny names for them. Parrot Nose Boy, Broccoli Girl, her hair looked like broccoli and her outfit was green. Sir Laughs a Lot, he laughed a lot at everything. 2 people whose names I did remember was Balaji and Amaya. They were both from India, House Hyderabad, and they hit it off with us the whole evening. Amaya was the head of her house, and she'd really hit it off with Sandy. They were both fun to be with, and yet badass in their own way. Amaya had been head for a long time, and she had her shit together. I was shocked to hear her house had over 1 million supernaturals living under one magical roof. I couldn't imagine what it would take to organize that many people and have them live together in peace. Balaji acted like her younger brother, although I don't think they were actually related. They laughed and joked, and it was easy to see they trusted each other and had been together a long time. There was something he said that made me think he was also her bodyguard, but I was getting too far into my cups at that point to remember what it was. I just knew he was easy to be with, and he seemed to enjoy sharing my adventure. They had been to a lot of gatherings, and they seemed to really enjoy our sense of wonder and amazement. They were also paying it forward, as their first gathering had been a bit of a mess, and an older mage had taken them under his wing and shown them around. Plus, they were both excited about practicing their English with us. I was just happy to have some new friends, and I felt like I could relax a little bit now Sandy had made her first truly supportive contact. The undisputed star of the night, though, was Bermuda. Everybody loved him. He laid in my arms, purred, looked around, and accepted all the love and adoration that came his way. And I thought he might be a little jumpy from all the people, but he did great. I think he thought everyone was there to tell him how wonderful he was, and he agreed with them. I told him not to get a big head, but he gave me a look like, "Don't be jealous, Daddy. They can't help but love me." We were also the talk of the evening, although most of the soups didn't know it was us. Everyone wanted to share where they were and what happened to them when it went down in the garden. The light made a huge impression, and all the stories mentioned how blinded they were, even by the reflected light. Some of the house guests had windows and said their room had lit up so bright everything looked pure white. The thing that really got everyone, though, was the heat. Soups talked about catching on fire and having someone in their party burst into flame. As the night went on, the stories got even bigger, and even more people got torched. I whispered to Sandy at one point that there was no way that many people had caught on fire. No way. She just laughed and said they were having a good time and enjoying their stories, true or not. We just listened, gasped in all the right spots, and moved on. In addition to the effect of it all, mages were also wondering how we did it. Many of the mages had put months of effort and magic into their own creations, and they knew how hard it would be to provide that much light and heat. One guy, who was supposed to be an expert, figured it would have taken a team of 100 mages over a year to generate enough power to fill the garden with that much heat and light. Most agreed there was no way that 2 mages could have done it on their own, especially at the last minute. The only bummer was nobody was awed by my belchers. I thought they'd done an amazing job and really filled up the garden with sound. Compared to the light and heat, though, they were sucking hind teat. Oh well, can't win them all. Despite how amazing everything was, I was being extra careful about how much I drank. I don't normally drink a lot. I didn't want to become totally hammered on my first night. Also, although it would have been easy to do, I was doing good with a happy glow and not too much of a wobble when I got a drink from a genie with a blue bottle. It all started with a guy that reminded me of Jafar from Aladdin. He had an oily, sinister vibe, but when he started talking, he seemed normal enough. Sandy and Amaya had wandered away briefly. Balaji was close, but he was talking with someone else. There wasn't anything really unusual about him, as people had been introducing themselves to me all night. The only thing that struck me odd, other than his vibe, was he didn't talk to or pet Bermuda. He just ignored him like he wasn't there. He said he was from house blah blah blah, and he hoped I was having a wonderful gathering. He noticed I was having trouble focusing, so he suggested we have a special drink he knew that helped with nights like this. He flagged down a tall woman, dressed as a genie, levitating a bottle made of deep blue glass. It was a cobalt blue, except it had swirls in it, and when I looked closely, it seemed to sparkle. He spoke to her in a language I didn't recognize, and she pulled out 2 gold shot glasses. She gave one to me, and it was so heavy I wondered if it was real gold. Then she poured out a tiny drop of clear liquid. It looked and smelled like water. Jafar smiled, toasted the gathering, then tossed off his shot. I waited to see how he would react first before following suit. He seemed fine, so I downed my teaspoonful of liquid too. It tasted like water, so for a moment I thought maybe he'd been pulling my leg. Then it hit, and a clarity flowed through me. The buzz lifted and my mind felt sharp. The wobble went away and I felt fresh. Whatever this was, it was awesome. My mind was also now sharp enough to realize that having an unknown drink with a guy that reminded me of a villain was probably not a good idea. The drink had done what he said it would, though, so maybe I just read him wrong. We were handing the gold glasses back to the genie when Balaji turned around and saw what was going on. "Everything all right?" He stepped close, and it felt like he was ready for trouble. "We were toasting the gathering," Jafar said. He seemed very happy for some reason. He gave me a small bow. "I hope your first time here will be both memorable and exciting. And now I'll leave you to it." He stepped away smoothly and faded into the crowd. I realized the tall genie had already moved on. "What did you want?" Balaji sounded suspicious. I told him about our chat, our drink, and how I was feeling right now. "I'm very surprised he wanted to talk to you," Balaji said. "He's part of a group that thinks the house should be a military-type operation. They call new supernaturals rats, and they feel they should only join the house after they've survived in the wild for many years. They feel it weeds out the weak. You are way too young for him to be recruiting you. Did he say anything that sounded off, or did he do anything strange?" I don't think so, I said. He gave me a vibe like a movie villain, but he was very polite and didn't do anything sinister. I've met so many new people tonight with different customs, different languages, and different looks. I'm way out of my normal element here, and I didn't want to offend anyone, so I just made small talk and went along with them. This has been a wonderful adventure so far, and I don't want to ruin it. I'm sure it's fine. Balaji seemed to relax a little bit. Maybe they found out you and Sandy were the source of the ruckus earlier, and they thought you had enough talent to get their attention. Maybe, I said, but that didn't sound right. Sandy and Amaya came back, and they told an interesting story about having a drink from a blue bottle. Amaya was a bit concerned because she recognized the genie from the group that was hostile to new soups. We filled them in an honor counter, and we spent a few minutes trying to figure out what their game was. Sandy and I both felt great, so we decided to keep going for a while longer, as there were a few more houses Amaya wanted to introduce us to. We continued to meet, mingle, and have a good time. Just because I felt clear didn't mean the alcohol wasn't affecting me, so I was even more careful about how much I drank as I moved forward. I'd just eaten a spun sugar lightning bolt when I realized something was off. The server held a dense cloud, like it was a tray, and these 2-foot-long lightning bolts were sticking out of it. They were made of spun sugar, so they were very fragile, but they had a delightful crunch, and they tasted of sugar and raspberries. I was just about finished when my hand shook, and suddenly I couldn't feel my fingers anymore. The piece of lightning bolt that I had left fell on my hand and shattered on the floor. I laughed it off and put my arm around Balaji to steady myself. Wait, why did I need to steady myself? I wasn't feeling dizzy. It took me a moment, but then I started feeling weak. I put my other arm around him like a friendly hug. I just needed a moment. Then my knees gave out. I had no strength. I tried to stay up, but I slid down his body like a whore dropping in for a blowjob. As my face slid down his chest, I realized he had a lot of nice muscles hidden under those clothes. My nose slid down his fine abs, and my cheek rested gently against his crotch for a brief moment before the rest of me gave way and I started to topple over. I felt so embarrassed. Wait, why was I on the floor? And why was Sandy on the floor? She was probably just being supportive. She's amazing like that. If I fall on the floor, then she's down there with me, supporting our house. Wait, that didn't sound right either. Why was I saying wait all the time? Was I going crazy? Oh, Balaji picked me up. That was nice. I'm sure it was impolite to be laying on the floor in all this august company. Amaya had Sandy. Good. We were running now. Damn, Balaji could move. Pixie Girl was running with us. She was messaging Peeps too. Oh, now she's opening the door of our suite. She's such a nice girl. Woman. She's a woman. She's older than me. Like way older than me. Probably ancient. Better not mention that. Oh, it's my bathroom. It looks so clean. CL did such a great job. He really is a nice guy. I gotta puke. Oh crap, I can't turn my head. Damn. Did all that come out of me? CL's gonna be so mad. I completely messed up his clean bathroom. I gotta puke again. Balaji took off my clothes. Probably a good thing, although they were ruined now. Stains like that are not gonna come out. He was stepping out of his clothes too. Oh, I think I ruined his outfit as well. I'm sorry. So sorry. Gosh, he really did have a nice body. It wasn't my normal type, very thick and powerful, but I'm sure he'd be quite the daddy in bed. I tried to puke again. I had to puke again. Oh, good. He was holding me up so I could pray to the Porcelain God. Most of that round made it in the offering bowl. Score! Round 5 was coming up. Was it round 5? I'd lost track. Round 6. Round 7. It was starting to hurt now. I felt like I was trying to upchuck my balls. Ooh. Taking a break, lying on the cool floor, someone was washing me off. Nice. Wait, don't use my paper towels for cleanup. That cost me a crap load of points. Hee hee hee. Get it? Crap load? Toilet paper? Hee. I think I'm going to close my eyes now. Nighty night. And this ends our chapter.